Welcome to part 2 of
JetBlue broke my wheelchair.
This is Brooke and Aadam from Imaginary Lemons. Thanks for joining us. We are a travel channel that focuses on traveling with disabilities.
Yes.
And we are a married couple that started traveling after my husband's spinal cord injury. And we talk about what it's like to go on those
Travel
journeys.
and different places and things you could do, fun things you're going to have. So, yeah.
We are currently on board the Disney Fantasy for a 7-day cruise.
Woohoo.
And it's going great, except for the fact that my husband is not in his normal wheelchair.
Nope. I am in a rental one that the airline provided to us. And so while they try to assess and figure out what's wrong with my wheelchair.
Yes. So when we arrived at the MCO airport, the Orlando airport, and
6 days ago? 5 days ago?
Yeah, about 5 days ago now. I got off the jet bridge first, as I always do, to check on his chair and make sure it's set up for him, and noticed immediately that it had clearly been taken apart and tried to put back together and put together wrong. So, of course, panic ensues, as one does, and so I took it apart and tried to put it back together properly, and it did not work. So I immediately got the attention of the flight crew and let them know this is not working, and that we weren't getting off this jet bridge until they dealt with it.
They figured out what it was, and so, yeah.
So they called for a manager, and the manager came out and looked at what happened and recognized that, yes, it won't, like,
broken.
It would power on, but it would not move.
Right.
And there was an error code.
It gives an error.
And I tried fully taking it apart and putting it back together. I mean, so it is a chair that is meant to come apart.
Right.
And so I took it apart in the ways that it's supposed to be, it disassembles like a scooter.
Right.
Put it back together. Still wouldn't work. So they manually pushed it up the jet bridge. He stayed in the aisle chair, and then they transferred him to a transport chair.
Yeah.
And they took us to baggage services, where they filed a full report. Once they filed the report, they asked, do you want us to send a wheelchair to your hotel? I said no.
No, because I can't.
How are we getting there?
How to get it? Because I'm sitting in a transport chair in the airport. It's like, yeah, I need my legs to move, and so sending it to our hotel for the night would not work, because again, how am I supposed to move around? So after speaking with the people at JetBlue, they finally got in contact with their claims people, and so the claims guy was, I don't know where he was, but eventually he brought us a chair. How many hours later?
So it took us 6 hours from the time we arrived to the time we left the airport.
Oh, yeah.
Because we basically said we weren't leaving the airport without
some type of
replacement wheelchair that he could use while they figured out how to address his chair. Because, I knew that if we left the airport, we would be less of a priority.
Right.
Plus, I had how are we going to get him around without a wheelchair?
Without a wheelchair.
For practical standpoint, in addition to just, I wanted to be in their face until they realized that they needed to fix it, was that we just didn't really have a good way of, how was I going to get him onto the Mears transportation to go and all of that? So we got the loaner chair. We got the contact information for the people who were supposed to help us.
Yeah.
And they sent us on our way in the loaner chair. We got on the cruise ship with the loaner chair.
So
how has it been?
It's different because it's not like my regular wheelchair. So the controls of it are different. So because they're different, it took me. I'm still not quite used to it, because the way this chair works, when I make a right or try to go right, the back part swings out left. And so I have to have much more clearance than before. I still in my mind, all right, make sure I'm clear, look behind me when I back up and move. But the other night, I took out a half table of the dining room, because the back seat of my chair, where the cushion is, grabbed onto the table and pulled stuff off the table.
Like, on a cartoon where they take the tablecloth and they pull it and everything comes with it. It was like
Yeah,
that.
it's almost like that.
And then this morning at breakfast, he almost repeated it, but there was no tablecloth, so we just sort of moved the table.
So it's
but
different.
we're, you have to laugh about it.
Yeah.
We are trying to keep as good an attitude about it as possible because things happen.
Things
And
happen,
that's the only
yes.
thing you can do. So we just got off the phone with the repair group, and so I wanted to
Okay.
give you an update on what happened. So the repair group has been pretty good about providing me updates throughout the cruise. Fortunately, I was planning to get Wi-Fi anyway. I'm not sure what we would have done if we didn't have
Yeah.
access to Wi-Fi
Yeah,
and
that'd have
our
been
phones.
hard.
Our phones, we have AT&T. It has like a day pass, so like it's $12 a day, and you can use your phone internationally. So we're able to use the Bahama Telecom thing.
Yeah.
So it would have been pretty tricky to do this without that. So
Yeah.
I'll say that. So we have and they have my contact information, not his, and I have the internet package, so that worked out. So they had a company assess it. When we were at the airport, their main goal was getting him a chair that he could take on this cruise because they knew that we were in town for one night and then
Yes.
going to be in the middle of the ocean and can't really ship a chair here. So they went with the company that had equipment the fastest. It was a Friday afternoon, or it was a Friday morning when we started.
Yeah.
And so they were, working against the
Trying
clock.
to get something to just get me in legs, wheels, so I can be mobile. That's the most important part of it.
Right.
So yeah.
It was a company that mostly deals with scooters, truthfully. And, with Orlando, that's not surprising that scooters are more common than wheelchairs, just given all of the parks and things like that. So it was a company called Scooter Doctor. They are great with scooters, maybe not as much with the wheelchairs.
Okay.
So they were able to get him this power chair. This power chair, we'll insert some footage. This power chair is the kind of power chair you would get if you were renting a power chair for a theme park. Like it's exactly that kind of chair.
Right. Yeah.
So which is fine for a theme park if you're not used to your own chair. Like, it gets the job done. So he's in this temporary one, and they were working to assess it. They identified some problems they could fix and some problems they couldn't fix.
Yeah.
So now what they're going to do is they're not going to be able to have it fully fixed by the time we return.
Get off the cruise. Yeah.
It's a 7-day cruise, but that was not enough days for them
Right.
to, which is understandable. So, and we want it fixed correctly. We don't want, Scotch tape and bubble gum fixes. So they're going to ship his chair to our home in Maryland.
Yes.
And we are going to drop this chair off.
This rental off at the
now,
baggage claim.
If I had said we needed to keep this rental, we could have kept this rental. However, I don't have a way to get this rental from the airport to our home.
Right.
We don't have that kind of modified vehicle that would
this
be
thing is
required
too.
to do that.
Yeah.
So if we did, we could just keep this until they fixed it. So instead, what they're going to do is we're going to drop this thing off, and then wheelchair services will come get him from where we drop it off and take him to the gate. At the gate, so same as if you showed up to the airport and needed wheelchair assistance
Right.
to get to the gate, same deal.
get
They
an
will
aisle
also help
chair.
us with the luggage, because normally our luggage situation is that we can
Attach
things to his chair. That's
regular
not
chair.
going to work with this kind of chair. Like, our whole system is messed up.
Yeah.
So they will help us with the luggage. We're taking Disney transportation to the airport. So once we get to the airport, we'll have to go find someone to help us with the luggage.
Right.
And then
Right.
we'll get to the baggage service offices where we're going to be dropping off this chair, getting the new chair, getting wheelchair assistance
Right,
and the
do
luggage
that.
assistance to drop off our luggage and go to the gate. And then he'll do it as normal, his normal gate transfer where he transfers to the aisle chair. Normally he would be transferring from his own personal chair, but instead it'll be from the airport transfer chair.
Yeah.
So airport transfer chair being pushed by airport employee to the aisle chair to his airplane seat, and then we do the flight, airplane seat to aisle chair back to another wheelchair transfer pushed by an employee at the DC airport. From there, they will take us to our car.
Right.
And help us with our luggage. So
Yes,
we've been
that's the
assured
biggest thing we
that they
needed
are
help
going to help
with.
it. So they will get us to our vehicle. Once I have him in the car, then we will just go home without a wheelchair, but we have backups at home. We have
Right. Old,
his
old
model. I mean, we have an old manual
wheelchair.
chair, which is really not a great solution for him. We also have his
Model
wheel
F.
model F, which is not great for days at a time,
No,
but
it's
it'll do for the night that we arrive.
right.
So then there's a new
Repair company.
repair company
In,
that does more powered chairs. So they're not a primary scooter company, they're a primary wheelchair company, though they do scooters, Express Mobility. And so Express Mobility will be providing him a power chair to use at home
while they assess
while
and try to
they
figure out.
assess and try to finish the repairs. Like I
Yeah.
said, they were able to do some things here in or there in Orlando, but this other company will take over, will check the work of the Orlando people, and will complete
Right.
the repair. We are not taking. They asked us, do we want to take
Take a
possession
chair?
of the chair
No.
and then take it? And I said, nope.
Nope.
I'm not taking possession of the chair until
Until we
it's
know
complete.
it's fixed
Because I
we
don't
never
need
happens.
it to like extra things to happen in transport, and then they're
Right.
like, oh well, was that when it was in your custody? Mm-mm.
No.
So they're going to ship it to Maryland. It'll still be their custody, their responsibility. If something else happens in addition, they have to deal with it. When we get the chair back, it will be completely repaired.
Right.
And we won't be accepting return until it's completely repaired.
Right.
So that is our plan, and it's a lot of steps.
Yeah.
It's kind of exhausting just
It
thinking
is.
through all of it.
And it feels, like I said, this is the first time as I've gone through something like this with my chairs broken by the airline, and I can see how frustrating it is for everyone, for us, where if the airline breaks it, how long does it really take to fix it? It's taking right now over a week just for them to assess it, not the repair part, not everything else part. And for people who fly in, who are in different states, it's hard because when you go back home, well, how do you get back home? How do you get to the airport? How do you get from the airport back home without your wheels or your legs? And so it's like, yeah, the airline needs to be, now granted, JetBlue has been on top. They got everything rolling fairly quickly, but now it's like, okay, now the repair company, waiting on them to do their part. Mm-hmm. And so at the end of the day, it's like, okay, yeah, it just takes time. Yeah. It takes time, and it's hard.
One important thing that I did learn along the way is if you have connecting flights, let's say you have one flight that's run by American Airlines, you connect, and then the next flight is, JetBlue. The last flight that you get off of is, and then receive the damaged chair, is the one responsible. So keep that in mind when you're doing connecting flights. So for us, it was JetBlue, so it didn't matter. But we saw somebody else who was dealing with a damaged bag, handled by the same company. Bag, wheelchair, they treat it the same. In terms of responsibilities, obviously there's more steps when it's a wheelchair. But so keep that in mind too. Now we try to avoid
connecting flights,
mostly because we want to avoid the number of times that they touch his chair, right? If you have a connecting flight, they have to transfer it to another flight and then to another flight. Also, we did learn that the damage happened at Maryland when it was, or at least that's what they're telling us, because when they opened the door to get to the chair, they said it was already disassembled in that way that I saw it when I saw it. So therefore, it was DC that caused the problem.
Broke it,
but it's MCO is the ones that need to deal with it because they're the last ones. So it's always the last group. So it would be no help to me to be calling DCA and asking them to deal with this. MCO is responsible. So just keep that in mind. If something happens, it's the last people who have custody of it are the ones who are responsible for making sure that you're taken care of, regardless of who did it along the chains. So, which is another reason why I don't want to retake control, because if I retake control, then, if we took the chair and then transferred it back to DC, is it now DC's responsibility? MC, I don't want to change the
chain of custody.
Chain of custody. Thank you. So that's another reason why I feel more comfortable just even though it's partially fixed, have them keep it until it's fully fixed, so that we don't have any he said, she said, oh, now, well, this airline did this. No. So even though we're going home on JetBlue, we called JetBlue. Also, JetBlue did give us a flight credit.
Right.
They also did they gave us a meal voucher while we were in the airport waiting, and then they did give us a flight credit
I wonder if they
for,
give us another when we go there.
I mean, I think it was for the incoming
Comes
flight.
from? Oh, okay.
I mean,
Okay.
we happened to book these as a separate incoming and outgoing because we were booking on points. I don't know if that made any sort of difference, but so maybe they would have done something different if we had booked them. But these are two separate reservations
Okay.
going back.
Okay.
So that is where we are. We are still without chair. We will be without chair until we get back to Maryland. Right now, they are checking on what types of chairs are available for rental through the new company,
Right,
so
like in the
that
DC
we
area?
can try to find in the DC area, so that we can find something that's comparable. They sent us one option. We didn't like that option. They
Yeah.
said, "Do you have anything else?" And so they're looking to see what else they have available. So they're trying. This
Yes.
is not a quick process.
No.
In my head, I was thinking, oh, well, they've got a week. By the time we get back, they should have this chair fixed. No,
Not quite. No.
That's not how it works.
That's not how it
So, which, it took 3 days for them to get back to us with, even the assessment of what was wrong. And they were focusing on like other small things they found that were broken while in flight.
Instead of the
and
primary
not
reason.
the like fact that it wouldn't go. I was like,
go.
Okay, thanks for noting that, but how
The
about
scratches and like, well, come on, that's
yeah. So
whose wheelchair doesn't
I'm
have
glad
scratches?
that they assessed those things, but I wanted to hear about the fact that it wouldn't move.
Right.
So all the more reason that we're more comfortable with it going to Maryland and somebody who's local and who specializes in power chairs. So I feel like we're in a good spot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's still an ongoing thing, and it's frustrating. But I'm glad that we're at least able to share this with you all, so you can learn from our experience and hopefully never have to experience it.
Yes.
But if you do, so key things: don't leave the airplane or the jet bridge until you know that they acknowledge
Yeah,
this
they were
problem.
really trying to get us off because it was also like, because the next flight was starting,
Right.
and so the new cabin crew was outside. They're like, "Yeah, can we just move you off the plane so we can do this?" Because I think there's some type of law or rule that says that you can still stay in the plane until your equipment is there, and so
Yes, but your equipment technically was there. I mean, they were trying, but the airline said, we're responsible until you get off this jet bridge, so we can get you off the plane. And so it's like, okay, fine.
Okay.
So we
Yeah.
stayed on that jet bridge, which meant that they could not load that plane.
Right.
Until
So yeah, it was a line. Yeah, it was.
We did not get off until there was a manager who was like, yep, this is our problem. We're going to figure this out. And so then we were like, okay, fine. So then we got off the jet bridge and went to like right where you normally board.
At the front of the gate. Yeah.
Which then allowed them to start boarding. But at that point, we had a manager with us who had acknowledged that this is a problem and we need to fix it.
Get a manager there. If you have an issue right away, don't let them take you off unless the manager's there. I think that's another good thing to have.
Yeah.
So bring a manager here, then we can start talking and moving. Otherwise, the regular cabin crew, they don't have the authority to move things along. So yeah.
But they did, to JetBlue's credit, they did acknowledge this is a problem, this is serious, we need to fix this right now. If he was semi-ambulatory, then their idea of like delivering a chair to the hotel might have been okay. Although honestly, I feel like they had more urgency because we weren't leaving the airport. So, do with that what you will.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, it was no, I'm not. It would have been incredibly difficult for us because theoretically, if I had to, we could have figured out a way to get him onto maybe had a borrowed wheelchair from the airport to get him up the lift in the mirrors, then have him transfer to a seat, and then from there, once we got to the hotel, get one of those borrowed hand wheelchairs from the hotel, get that up the lift, have him transfer out of it, go down the thing, because I did think through all these things, right, if we had to. So then, get him to the hotel room, give up the borrowed chair, and then be trapped in the hotel room while we that would have been a lot, right?
Yeah, so just so
So
she
it
was
was better
better.
to
So
just wait it out, even though nobody wants to sit in an airport for 6 hours. But at
yeah,
least we had powered wheels, and it was a like I was, they said, well, what about a scooter? I said, nope, it needs to be a power chair because the scooter doesn't work for a bathroom, right? Like that would have been really hard to
yeah,
transfer to transfer to the bathroom in a scooter. So we were very specific about this is what he needs. He needs a powered wheelchair. Nothing else will do.
right.
And so
So
once they understood that, then they made that happen. So you just have to be very clear about what you need. You do have to be a little bit flexible. They weren't able to get the exact same model. If you had a highly customized wheelchair, that's going to be a very different situation. You're going to have to decide whether you can deal with a made for everybody kind of rental chair, or if something else is going to be needed.
right, yeah,
So that, I mean, I think if he needed a highly customized chair and that was the only thing that would work, this would have been a very different story,
yeah,
unfortunately, because I don't think they would have been able to, like a tilt and space chair and all of that. Like they're not.
yeah,
So then that's when your travel insurance starts kicking in, because you may have had to
yeah,
get, skip the cruise and get a hotel and all of those things. So
right,
that makes travel insurance sort of really important at that point.
yeah,
Fortunately, we didn't need quite that much. So we were fortunate in that regard.
yeah.
But, just be
So
clear about
yeah,
what you need.
so that's the update for right now. We're gonna head back to home in Maryland, and then they're gonna slowly try to get it fixed and have it shipped, and do the assessment there and get it fixed, and then hopefully that'll be the last. That'll be it.
So
Yeah.
we'll do a part 3 once more things happen, right?
Yeah.
Probably in Maryland.
Yeah.
But now we're gonna go back and try to enjoy the rest of our cruise. And thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video.